Friends, we are very happy to inform you that e-modules are prepared for B.Ed program at Telangana by the School of Education, Osmania University under Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching Scheme MHRD New Delhi. It's indeed our pleasure to share with the teacher educators and the prospective teachers and get maximum benefit out of it. It's a first of its attempt by us. We continue to add many more such lessons to share with you all.
Hello students, I am Dr. Samata from Telangana University Department of English. Today our topic is multilingualism in English language teaching. To begin with, let me quote Wolfgang Klein, a German linguist, who says, "Language is the medium through which the child acquires the cultural, moral, religious and other values of society." And according to Levy, another linguist, he says, "Language is a human faculty, it co-evolves with us." Thus, we can understand whether it's a single language or multiple languages, it's the human and language that goes hand in hand. And through it, a child acquires the values of society. Let's go further. Whether monolingual or monolingualism, even in normal circumstances, it's a rare phenomenon and is beyond imagination in a context such as India, where English has coexisted with number of languages, indigenous languages, over a long period. In fact, the magnitude of multilingualism in India has made scholars about how communication happens and how social cohesion is maintained. Since time immemorial, India has been a multilingual country, a land of many languages, dialects and religions, and Indian students belonging to different linguistic communities and religions speak different languages. Many students speak or know more than one or two languages. Bilingualism or multilingualism is a very common phenomenon here. For instance, most students speak one language at school and their mother tongue at home or their linguistic or religious communities. And at higher stages, English becomes the lingua franca or the common language of the students. Hence, it is very natural that the pedagogy of teaching English gains lot of significance. And we are aware that in India, it deals with English as a second language. So the question is whether knowing more than one language helps in English language teaching, whether it is advantageous or disadvantageous. Research has been conducted and theories have been put forward. A wide range of stakeholders, including international agencies like UNESCO, UNICEF, and national ministries of education, and non-profit organizations, they recognize that successful education in multilingual classrooms builds on the foundation of students' home language, and they make sure that adequate access to the national or regional language of teaching and learning. It also takes regard the best approaches to the learning of language of international use such as English. Now let's answer the question, what is multilingualism? Multilingualism occurs when people migrate from one place to another, taking their languages with them. Multilingual differs from being monolingual and bilingual. All the three terms are related with languages, the speaking of languages or knowing of languages. Today there are around 7,000 languages in the world, and an increasing number of situations in which two or more languages coexist and are necessary in everyday communication. Another word that is used is trilingualism, which is also being a multilingual. Hence, one has to note that there is a difference between bilingualism and multilingualism. Bilingualism is the ability to speak or write fluently two languages, and knowing three or more than three languages is multilingualism. No person is born multilingual. Language learning happens in two ways. Children begin acquiring one or more languages as they go about living their lives. As they grow, one language becomes a dominant language. This type of language learning is not really optional, but a result of individuals' circumstances. Another way individuals may acquire language is by deciding to learn it on their own. An example of this is when someone takes a foreign language in high school or some part of the school course. People become multilingual either by acquiring two or three languages at the same time in childhood, or learning a second language sometime after acquiring the first language. So, multilingualism is the ability of a speaker or a community of speakers to communicate effectively in three or more languages. A person who can speak multiple languages is known as a polyglot or a multilingual. There is one inconvenience with being a multilingual, that is, the speaker may have smaller vocabularies in each language. Now, let us note that there are different forms of multilingualism. One form focuses on how languages function in society, such as playing a specific role. Some nations have more than one official language, while other languages are used in social contexts. And another form of multilingualism is a person's ability to communicate in different languages in different settings. Some nations value language learning and often require students to learn two or more languages. Thus, we understand that a multilingual classroom is taken to be in which there are students who know and use two or more languages in their home or community. It is also a classroom where students are expected to learn two or more languages. In some multilingual classrooms, teachers have been required not to use their students' languages and to focus only on the languages that are taught in school. The focus here is to find and suggest ways to include students' own languages and to add the languages being taught at school to their repertoire. Now, let us discuss some of the problems of multilingual classroom. When in a classroom there are students of different languages and no common language for communication, some of the problems that may arise in the classroom can be listed as follows. Firstly, communication related problems. Now, what are these? They refer to misunderstandings and misinterpretation of each other's meanings while talking. This is quite common, which we see in our relationships between our family members, spouses, co-workers and others. Second, interaction related problems. These are those problems we come across when we don't communicate or react to each other due to the factors such as absence of common language, or being unable to understand each other, or being in some kind of internal and external conflicts. Third, comprehension related problems. These problems arise due to not being aware of each other's language, or sometimes not being able to match with others' comprehension levels. Next, structural organization related problems. We all know that any educational institution, especially at school level, children are officially expected to use school's single medium of instruction in all periods, in all subjects, except in second or third language time slots, where other languages are allowed. Typically, strict policy measures control the language children speak inside and outside the classes, with consequences for not adhering to the rule. Teacher recruitment and training is also based on the ability to use the medium of instruction. Thus, the school positions a single medium of instruction as central to its overall working, in keeping with the market demands and policy measures. So what happens is, due to this uniform medium of communication, the message that is sent out to the students is that this language is the preferred language and this language is in its correct form. And thus, schools fail to clarify that the languages students personally identify with are not unworthy of recognition, are not inferior, and do hold educational value. Overall, the school structure becomes unable to appreciate the multilinguality of its students. Coming to the last point, last problem, that is content delivery related problems. That is, sometimes it becomes very difficult to both the teachers and the students to deliver the content if there is a restriction on the use of other languages in the classroom. Teachers become exhausted and the children stop taking initiative to express and interact. Proceeding from there, let us try to understand types of multilingualism. The first type is additive type of multilingualism. Here, the learning of second language does not interfere with the first language. Both languages are well developed. For instance, English speakers, when they go to a place, a country like Quebec, they learn French to upgrade their business skills. Or we can also understand if Telugu people, when they go to, Hindi speaking states, they learn Hindi to upgrade their business skills. And the second kind of multilingualism is subtractive type of multilingualism. Here, the learning of second language, it interferes with the first language. The second languages replaces the first language. This we can understand with the situation where where the successive US immigrants, they eventually become monolingual speakers of English. Now let's understand ways of multilingualism. One is simultaneous way, that is, in which a child learns more than one language from birth itself. and another way is successive way. Here a child learns a second language after some time, after when he gets matured. And we also have to understand some approaches when using two or more languages for learning in the classroom at the same time. One of the approaches, code switching. Now in code switching, this is the simultaneous use of two languages, that is switching between different sounds, words, concepts, grammatical structures, and I mean, if we look at the development of brain, it shows us it is a natural brain training. Moving from one language to another in course of a single conversation it becomes very common. Sometimes one may not know consciously when they are moving from one language to another. It is also common in certain countries where a native language is spoken alongside a former colonial language, like Hindi to English or Telugu to English, and vice versa. A small example I can quote here, something like a sentence like this, when two people are conversing with each other. You are right, उन लोगों की अंग्रेज़ी अच्छी हो जाती है, जनरल नॉलेज भी अच्छी हो जाती है, लेकिन जो और सब्जेक्ट्स होते हैं सिंस साइंस और मैथमेटिक्स, they are very weak in those subjects, something like that, interspersing English and Hindi. Then the second approach we can understand is translanguaging. Now this is described by Sen Williams in 1996 by taking the example of Welsh model of translanguaging. The Welsh model of translanguaging involves the careful and planned use of two languages, that is Welsh and English. What happens here is the lesson begins, the preview, in Welsh, and the next part of the lesson takes place in English, that is view part, and the third part of the lesson, that is review, goes back again into Welsh, and the next day the sequence of languages can be switched around. This can happen even with our languages Telugu and English in the classroom. The teacher can start the class in Telugu, then switches over to English. The languages can be switched from one language to the other. So translanguage is used purposefully to encourage students to work through a normal process of language learning, mixing, switching, interpreting, translating, towards being more able to use two or more languages as independent and separate languages. In the place where such situation is present, the individuals learn language naturally or unconsciously, and we can sometimes observe the language shift. This is why a child growing up on or brought up in a multilingual society automatically becomes multilingual. Hence, there is a need to develop a pedagogy which both addresses the needs of the multilingual learners and also use it as a resource to help them. A multilingual pedagogy is a learner-centered approach that aims to develop students' language awareness and language learning awareness across the languages that students know. Now it's time to look briefly at multilingualism and English language teaching in India. English language teaching in India has to be dealt in multilingual context of Indian students. preparing the students to compete with the global challenges of 21st century, English language would take them a long way. English teaching, therefore, should be strengthened with professional approach. However strong base is one's mother tongue is expected to make learning of English easy. English language teaching should be developed on the already acquired skills of the first language in children. According to National Curricular Framework 2005, that an attempt could slowly, be made towards multilingualism. Multilingualism, English language and mother tongue or regional language are taught simultaneously from grade 1 in schools now. So this is desirable to bridge the social gap that exists and also to develop multilingual competence in children. According to R.K. Agnihotri, it is established by a series of studies that there is a positive correlation between multilingualism and scholastic achievement. That means the higher the degree of proficiency in different languages, the higher is the achievement in different subjects. So the purpose of our education should not be to English only, but to enhance higher levels of proficiency in 3 or 4 languages by the time the child passes +2. Now here are a few suggestions to address the students' multilingual needs in the classroom. Firstly, teachers should believe that their own multilingualism is beneficial to the students and themselves in language learning. So teachers should not restrict themselves in using the languages other than English in the classroom if required. Second, classroom methodology should emerge from a comprehensive understanding of the learners, the learner's background, the learner's mother tongue. So if the teachers understand that students belong to different language groups, then that will give a good platform to the teachers. Then preparing multilingual teaching and learning materials. Teachers use examples from other languages and form peer group of students with the same language background. And teachers can give assignments to the students based on translation type of work and not relying only on course textbooks of the curriculum, but explore new approaches and materials, planning their teaching according to the curriculum itself in innovative ways. Finally, use assessment and evaluation as a reflective tool to enhance learning rather than make it judgmental. And some of the different techniques to encourage the student to use second language in the classroom. Firstly, the teacher can invite students for group discussion. The teacher can form language groups if the classroom size is large enough, and students can be invited to do translation activities, and teacher can ask simple questions from their day-to-day activities, casual activities. Then always teachers should encourage them with instrumental motivation. Teachers also should use the activities that are included in the learning materials such as textbooks but also ask students to draw on what they know from before, thereby exploring similarities and differences between languages. And visual media, especially if it is the classroom is belonging to lower primary sections. So, cartoons and children literature should be extensively used so that they are helpful and facilitate learning. Then, reflecting on the learning strategies that can help in transfer of the knowledge from mother tongue to other languages to learn English. Students maintain their native language while adding another language, and they develop pride in their own culture while developing an understanding of others. If the teacher gives importance to their languages also, students take pride. Coming to methods of teaching. It is observed that interpretative skills are transferable across languages. The exposure to the stylistic analysis of a literary text in the first language helps in the analysis of the same text written in a second language. Hence, teachers should select such texts and use them in the classroom. Now, language teachers can, in a school, can collaborate on identified topics and facilitate the learners. Next, teachers need to spend time in learning how to learn in the English language classroom, or in other words, we can say that to develop learning strategies and help the students with the same. And it is also useful for the teachers to draw on students' language learning experiences from other languages before beginning to learn English. That is, the teachers can always ask the students like how they learnt other languages. Then teachers to draw on their students' potential knowledge of their native languages when they teach English. Finally, let us look at the advantages of multilingualism. Advantage of multilingualism is always, it is always advantageous to be multilingual, because previously we have seen that how it is proportional for the scholastic achievement also. So, the first advantage is access to multiple languages and cultures, and learning becomes easier at early age. Language sensitivity becomes larger. Then general learning also becomes easier. Polyglots function better, and learning a foreign language brings children more cognitive challenges that result in better skills. And the ability of switching from one language to another helps the children build concentration levels. Thus, let's conclude the lesson that by saying giving support or encouraging the students of multilingualism in the classroom would not only give voice and legitimacy to the identities of children, but it has also been empirically proven to have a positive correlation with scholastic achievement. Divergent thinking, cognitive flexibility, and social tolerance. And there is a need for multilingual proficiency for the students today to participate and communicate in the multilingual world. In order to gain such proficiency, English becomes the key component, because English is by its nature a language of multilingualism and multilinguals. And according to Griffler, English has established itself alongside other languages in many speech communities around the world. I hope you understood the topic multilingualism in language teaching, especially English language teaching. Thank you.